Welcome back to the Fly Culture Podcast, your weekly look inside the world of fly fishing presented by Pete Tigers. If you're enjoying listening, please consider subscribing.
It's fair to say Chris Flay loves fly fishing. He hits the river whenever time allows and has been doing some serious grayling fishing over the winter. He's been fishing from an early age, and I plan to learn more about his passion for our pastime and how it has helped him through more difficult times. Chris, it's great to have you along on the Fly Culture Podcast. How do I find you today?
I'm very well. Thank you very much, Pete, for inviting me. It's been a few days since the invite, so all good. When I read it in the morning, I was like, has he messaged the right Chris? I'm like, me? But looks like we are. So here we go, and looking forward to it.
Well, one of the reasons is that obviously, we follow each other on social media, and it looks as though you've been packing plenty of fishing in, particularly after grayling, and it looks as though it's been pretty successful, hasn't it?
I've been doing as much as I possibly can, yeah. I've been driving to Wales, I've been going up to Derbyshire, I've been going to Hereford, anywhere that we could potentially try and find that magical number, then I've been going. It hasn't come yet, but we've still got a month or so left to try and get one.
And what do you mean by magical number?
The magical, well, at the moment it's £2, but the magical number would be a £3. Very few and far between, but we've got to try somewhere, haven't we?
Absolutely. And what's caused this quest? Is it something that, have you always looked this way with your fishing, or is it just there was something you'd sort of set yourself a personal target and wanted to see if you could find one? So
I joined a river club a year ago in Derbyshire, the Peacock, and I joined because of a member, Adam Price Hunt, invited me up there one day, and I thought, this is absolutely stunning. And we fished for a year or so, just trying to figure out where to go, what the best tactics were for these grayling. And we sat down at the start of this grayling season, and we said, let's try and find that magical one. We did our homework. We were looking at weather conditions. We were checking barometers. We were doing long range forecasts to try and pick out when we could go to certain rivers. Government websites to check the levels. It was just let's try and do this and see how we get on this year. That was the main short story of it, really.
That's a really cool one, isn't it? Just trying to do something and experience something with a friend. It's funny, I sort of kind of know the Peacock waters a little bit, and I've only fished them in trout season, but I never saw so many grayling. But I get that impression speaking to Andy and Yeva and now yourself as well about those grayling. And I see the pictures all you guys put out, and I know it's interesting that we have particular places we think for certainly sizable grayling, but they can be just anywhere, can't they? If you search hard enough. I don't know if the Derbyshire Y is a hotspot for sizable ones, is it or not? Or was it just something that you set yourselves to see if you can find?
We hope that there is, and we all live in hope. Speaking to some of the guys that fished for a lot longer than I have, there's a lot of twos. There's a lot of long fish. It's the depth of the grayling that we're not seeming to get that some of the Scottish rivers may have, that some of the upper Welsh rivers may have. We are getting fish sort of 48, 49, 50 centimetres. But, they've not got that teddy bear-shaped head that everyone dreams about. But, yeah, again, speaking to... I was out with Andy and IB only last week before, and we were just sort of plotting from swim to swim going up, and it was good fun, great fun, just sharing, especially Andy's knowledge is incredible, and then IB's there laughing away and just jumping in swim, so she's hilarious.
Fantastic. Now, I say about that I've not seen many grayling. It just reminded me in the summer, Emma and I were heading further north, and we stopped over in Bakewell just to see Pete Arfield, and dropped into his shop and then walked around town
Yes.
to have a look. Yeah, there's a
Yes.
big one there. And I phoned Andy and I said, "There's a big one there, isn't there?" And he seemed to know all about it, as it seems as you do.
Yeah, there's a few. There's where the Lovelock Bridge is. You'll find a couple there mixed in with the Trout, and then if you move further up to the town bridge, you'll tend to see 3 or 4 up there. But trying to get them to take is another story. They are wily old fish, but that's it. Grayling don't get that big for taking food here, there, and everywhere.
And I always wonder whether those ones eat a bit of bread and everything else that goes with it, because you can buy food to feed the fish or the birds and stuff as well, can't you?
Yeah, there's food there in some of the shops, but you never see a grayling coming up for it. People that are there chucking the chips in, but you never ever see a grayling coming up for the chips or for the food or for the bread. Never. Weird. So how they get that big in that stretch, we don't know yet.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That just reminded me seeing those, and I thought, geez. And I think the biggest fish I've landed was down here, but I hooked a big one on the Dove actually, and I was really close to get, and I was sort of trying to get it across to the other side. I couldn't find my buddy, and I knew it was the mother lode. And I thought, this is my fish. This is, a special one. And I thought, I'm going to get somebody who's walking along there. It was around the corner where the river bends to the left as you look upstream.
Yeah.
And under the sort of trees, I was threw in there and fish took. And I thought, I'll get it across. I should have netted it and then taken it across, but I didn't want to. And I thought, right, I'll get this, because I was sort of middle-ish river. And I thought, I'll get a little bit nearer. And it came off. And that one has sort of, I don't mind because I'm not sort of fussed, but I knew it was, I'd seen it a few times. And when they sort of move around in the water, I could see it was a sizable fish. But that means I've got to go back and have a go another time. So I'm absolutely fine with that. Does that mean... Go on.
Sorry, after you.
No, I was going to say, does that mean that you're looking at your grayling fishing slightly differently to any other winter then? Are you focusing, or are you enjoying it all?
I'm enjoying it all, but I have focused more this season on my grayling. No reason why. It's just, I'm saying that, I've also been out for pike. Because I've got a river literally 2 minutes from my house outside the back door. So I've been doing that. But grayling has just made me inquisitive this year. It also takes you to such beautiful places. Like when I was up in the Welsh Mountains only a couple of weeks ago, it's just breathtakingly gorgeous. The river runs. I think it was running at 1.6, where it normally runs at sort of 1.3, 1.2. And it was crystal clear. And it was just unbelievable. We couldn't see anything. There were no fish to be seen, but you'd be walking up, you'd be wading up the river, fishing the pockets, fishing the seams, the likely places that you'd expect to see grayling. And we were picking them. Although it was that clear, you couldn't see them. They're that well camouflaged, and where they were hiding in the ranunculus, and you just sort of drift your nymph down, and you'd be having them on. But it was difficult. Whether that was because it was so clear, but yeah, going back to that, it's just been a fun winter, and I think because it's not been freezing cold. I suffer with really cold hands when I'm fishing, so I've got one of those Zippo pocket warmers. But because it's not been freezing cold, I think I've enjoyed it a bit more, if that makes sense to you. Not there shivering and wondering, I need my flask of coffee, or I've got to go and sit in the hut. I've been able to walk in the river, wade, obviously not the Derbyshire wide, but the other rivers that we visited, wading up, and not been -2, frostbitten on the toes and fingers. So that's probably why it's been more enjoyable this winter.
Yeah, it makes sense. It does make sense. And for me, we've had the issue that the rivers have been shot anyway. There's been so much rain that, the fishing opportunities have been absolutely minuscule. minuscule. But I was fishing my buddy Perry the other day, and we were saying that, you know, we were fishing a pond with some trout in, and I was saying, I tell you what, bud, if we were in the river right now, it'd be freezing. And he said, yeah, absolutely. So I'm slightly nervous, very slightly nervous. I'm getting a bit fair weather, but I'm kind of okay with that, and I'm finding that I pick my moments a little bit more carefully. But I think if we'd have had water, I probably would have been out a little bit more. But I haven't felt the need to. I have christened, as I said, with a pond trout, but I haven't christened my river season yet, and I'm okay with that. It will happen when it happens, and we'll see how it goes from there. But you mentioned the Derbyshire Wye, and for listeners who do not know it, I know we've mentioned Andy and Yaver, and they've talked about the Derbyshire Wye, both of them previously amongst other rivers in your area. But for listeners that you cannot wade the Derbyshire Wye, and I assume that's the same in wintertime. So what is your approach for wintertime grayling then on the Derbyshire Wye if you can't wade?
If we can't wade, which we can't do on the Wye, there's the two main ways. There's urine infin, and there's using an indicator. Urine infin can be good when the water is a little bit higher, and you want to fish the faster runs. But this season, or this grayling season, I've been mainly on the Wye using the indicator. I feel the presentation has been better. There's a longer reach, and it's served me well. I feel I've done pretty well. Now, I only started back into river fishing. When are we? Probably about 2 years ago. So it's been a steep learning curve, but a fun one all the same. And again, it's been great having a lot of members, a lot of friends that I fish with that have been doing this river for so long, or not just this river, but rivers in general. And I've been able to tag on with those, watch them, learn from them. And yeah, it's been enjoyable. But I would say, if you can't wade, I would go indicator, or if you feel comfortable with it, clink and dink, which personally I don't. I'm not that comfortable with it. Great method, but I've just never got on with it myself. So indicator, single fly, couple of flies, and walk the river. Find out what helped was in the summer. When we had the low water, you could see where the boulders were, you could see where the slight indentations were, where the weed beds were. So if there is a bit of colour in the river, then you know where they are, and you can pick your spots. So that's how it's been this season for me.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I asked you, actually, because I was thinking, well, wading and urine nymphing or tight line, whatever we want to call it, in that sort of negates the ability to keep it as tight unless you've got a really long rod. But you answered perfectly about, if there's a bit more water in the river, that it's a little easier to fish. Interestingly, similarly to you, I found I've fished indicators more than I have in quite some time, and have really enjoyed it, I have to say. And listeners will know that I'm not really fussed about catching every fish in the pool. And so it feels to me as though it's giving the fish a bit of a chance as well, that I'm not taking everyone out of the pool when I'm doing that. But it's been fun. I know it's not as effective as urine nymphing, but I seem to be fine with that and have enjoyed it. And I kind of like, again, I fished some chalk streams over the winter and before Christmas, and I've really enjoyed doing that, and either spotting fish or not being able to spot them, but making a nice cast out over the water and seeing it just dip, and that's kind of exciting. So I like that. What sort of indicators are you using, actually? Because I want to talk a little bit about that as well.
If I was to do the Euro, I'm using a bicolour line. I did start using check leaders, the Hens check leader, when I first started a couple of years ago. And it was great to start with, but it was one of these 10 metre ones where you wind it onto the line. So Adam, who I fish with, and we actually got the Cortland one from a guy called Paul Kerry. He gave us one, said, try this out. And what Adam did, instead of just using one section of the Cortland bicolour, we've actually furled it. So we've twisted it around, a couple of micro rings either end, and so it's, my eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm 40 years old now. I'm not a spring chicken. So having this furled leader of bicolour has made it so much easier to be able to see those indications. If I was indicator as such fishing, I'm going with the airlocks. I know a lot of people use cork. There's the New Zealand style, but the airlock for me, it's easy to move up and down if you're fishing a deeper swim. It's visible, and the nice thing about it, it says on the packet, it's biodegradable. So when I do hang it up in a tree or in one of the in one of the submerged logs, I know it's not going to be there forever. So it's nice to look after the environment as well whilst doing your bit fishing.
Nice.
So yeah, that's my two options.
Nice. I was thinking, that's interesting what you're saying about furling those indicators and everything else. Another thing I found this time of year in low light, when the bicolour ones don't show so well, when I get a new one, I just get a permanent black marker and put some marks on the indicator there as well, and it helps it stand out in low light. So hopefully that may be of use. And when it comes to it was actually the indicators you attach to the leader or whatever, I was really, really fascinated with. And that's interesting to hear about the airlock ones as well. I sort of tried some of them early on, and just only personally for me didn't work as well. I've just gone back to those sticky ones that you just stick over the leader, and they seem to work really, really well. And they seem to hold up weight really well for me as well. So that's why I've kind of enjoyed those. Now, you said about your fishing on rivers that you've got back into them just in the last couple of years, but that's sort of you being incredibly modest. I think that, you fished most of your life, and it was probably, I get the sense that it's rivers where you started your fishing career.
I did, yeah. When I was 4 or 5 years old, funnily enough, up in Derbyshire, when my parents used to live South Normanton, and my dad was a member of the Derbyshire County for 15 years. So I remember the age of sort of 5, 6, going up there with him, with my, I think it was something like a 6-foot Berkeley 5-weight or something, and an old reel that he'd had or passed down from his dad. And I'd just be there swinging nymphs, I suppose, putting a gold head Montana on and chucking it out, letting it swing around with the current, and that's what got me. But I do remember it was Willersley Castle that we used to fish, which is part of the Derbyshire, and whenever I'd get cold, I remember he'd make me run up to the top of the hill, where the castle was. It was bloody miles away, this hill, but so he could carry on fishing and not have me moaning that I'm cold. But yeah, it was Derbyshire we started, so we had the Dove, the Derwent. Then he'd take me up to Scotland. We'd have a caravan holiday where we'd fish one of I think it was the North Esk, for salmon and sea trout. Again, this is probably between the ages of 6 to 12. So yeah, that's where it all started for me. My dad got me into the sport from a young age, and I've not looked back since. Let's be honest, it's been brilliant, and we still fish together now.
Nice. So tell me, it's interesting actually, because the Montana fly is really considered a stillwater fly, but it was designed out in the States to represent a stonefly nymph. So its background really is, and I guess those rivers that you're fishing, you'll get stoneflies in and stuff like that. It clearly worked. I wanted to talk about, we'll come on to the salmon and sea trout because I want to learn a little bit about what they mean to you. But was there a moment, you were sort of brought into fishing and fly fishing from a very, very early age? Did you detect there was a moment where you thought, this means something to me? Or as a youngster, did you do it and then move away and then subsequently come back to it?
No, I've always fished, literally from the age of 4, whether it be spinning, coarse fishing, But my passion was always and has been fly fishing. I don't really know. I can't really say when it just clicked that this is what, I suppose, a cliche. This is who I am. I'm a fly fisherman. I'm not a coarse fisherman. It's just what I've done. It's what my dad did, although he did a bit of sea fishing. We can go down that line a bit later. But yeah, it's just I fly fish. I enjoy fly fishing. You can catch all the different species on fly. Yeah, I've done a bit of spinning in my time and that for pike perch, but I've always gone back to putting a bigger fly on for pike, putting a smaller fly on for perch, and that is just how really I've done it. So yeah, just fly fishing. That's it, really.
Well, that sounds pretty good to me. So did you, even when you'd sort of left home and then set up, moved away from home, you still continue to fish and still felt as passionate about it as well? I guess that's what I'm trying to drill down. I know you've already answered that by your love and passion for it, but it seems to me, and the reason I'm trying to find out really, is that it seems as though that passion has never burnt out. And that's really nice to hear, and it's continued all the way through your life by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I may have. Yeah, it has. I moved. Well, we moved back down south, where we just carried on fishing. Then obviously I fled the nest, but carried on fishing. But I've had I suppose a tough year or couple of years or so a while ago, where I just had a panic attack which stopped me completely. Don't know why, don't know where it came from. But I knew that I needed to get back into fishing. How long ago would it have been now? Probably 3 or 4 years ago when it happened. Moving house, changing jobs, all the normal trigger signs, I suppose. And yeah, it just stopped everything, if that makes sense as well. So I kind of knew what was going on, but didn't know what was going on at the same time, but knew that I needed to get out and get back into it. So if that kind of answers your question in that way.
Yes, it does. And I'm terribly sorry to hear about it. And, it's must have been a terrible experience to actually go through. And like you say, people carry, I guess, stress in different ways, don't they? Sometimes they let it out, sometimes they don't. And I guess it can be like a pressure cooker that suddenly boils over, and it must be harder to take that pressure cooker off the heat and let it cool down, and it can take some time. And it strikes me by what you said there that fishing was, if not the first, one of the first things that you thought about to get you back to a happier, better place. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, fishing, excuse me, fishing, family, daughter, they were the three things that got me back out. And I still, when we were speaking earlier, I couldn't sleep last night. I was that nervous. My hands were shaking, my legs were shaking. And it's amazing. I suppose I'm a bottler. I'm not a free speaker when it comes to how I feel. My feelings, I'll bottle them up, which I've obviously learnt now isn't good. If you are feeling a bit down, speak to someone. Take a mate fishing, something like that. Some of the chats we've had on the bank about absolutely anything, literally from films, love life, past relationships, anything goes on the riverbank, and it doesn't get shared. That's it. What happens on the riverbank stays on the riverbank in my eyes. If you want to come and confide in me, please do. I'll do the same, and then we'll go out and we'll catch some fish. But yeah, doing that, talking to people massively helped. And I still get that butterfly feeling now when I go fishing, but I know what it is. I know it's that I'm excited. It's not it's like this morning when I was feeling a bit. Ugh, it was just that I was excited about doing this. It's nervous. It's a natural thing, and when people realise that, they'll be able to come out, I suppose, out the other side a little bit better. But yeah, talking, realising that your body's emotions are natural, that's helped massively. And obviously the fishing and some close mates around me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's always mentioned, and rightly so, the therapeutic uses of fishing and how that helps us. And like you say, we're all different. And I know I'm different from you. That if I blurt out, and then I've cleared it out of the system, but I can understand how difficult it must be if pressure is building and building and building like that. And I'm absolutely thrilled to hear you're coming out the other side of that. And like you say, that you were talking about when you look forward to something and when you do it, that even that moment allows you to be in a place where you think, yeah, that's taking me to a good place. So everything that goes with that helps, I guess, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And yeah, and so I think it's really cool. And like you say, it's nice sometimes, and I've talked on this before. Do you find then, and when, I hope you don't mind me asking you questions about this,
No.
and because I'm hoping it will help. I know you said to me previously you were happy to talk about it, and I hope it might help some other people. And it's been a difficult few years, hasn't it, for a number of reasons, and obviously the main one. And have you found though that the act of going fishing has helped, or is it the act of going with some company that you can talk, or is it just sometimes going on your own that is enough to say, yeah, actually that's topped me up and I'm feeling good? Is there any that you have found the most beneficial?
That's a great question. When I go fishing alone, I will probably only spend 2 hours. An hour is enough for me just to go and let go of that steam, listen to the water, listen to the birds. So yeah, I can go quite happily by myself in the summer just for an evening, or I can even go on my lunch break. I've got a canal and a river, like I said earlier, just behind the house. An hour will be fine for me. If I go with people, then I want to spend all day. I want to take my packed lunch in my backpack. I want to take my flask. I want to sit down. I want to chew the fat with them at lunchtime. I want to fish the same pool, just alternatively, so we're all covering all bases while talking. Yeah, so that's my both of them covered. By myself, fine. Couple of hours, blow steam off. With other people, all day. End up in the pub having a pint.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun. It's interesting what you say about the fishing on your own. I'm very similar. And sometimes you can go down, catch a fish. Sometimes I don't, but sometimes, and that short period is almost like that. And I think I'm like yourself, that I fish a fair bit. So I don't need on my own to go for a whole day. Often it may just be me and the dog, as I've said many times on here before, and I'll chat away to him and say, think that's enough now. And that's fine. And you almost feel, it may be almost subconscious actually on some levels, mightn't it? That you feel that 2 hours has topped you up nicely, and then you can sort of walk away until the next time. Do you think that might be the case?
Yeah, totally with you on that. 2 hours is absolutely fine. It's just enough to get that adrenaline coming if you do get a fish that settles all the endorphins down and whatever. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know exactly what the correct terminology is, but yeah, just enough just to, when you get home, you're nice, relaxed. The stresses, the troubles are gone. If not gone, they'll be subsided that little bit more, and yeah, ready to go again when the time comes that you can get back out on the bank, whether it be alone or with the guys that you fish with.
Fantastic. And how are you doing now?
All good now. Still have the odd moment, but it's life. We get on with it, and I know what it is. That's the thing. I know what it is now. So yeah, yeah, we're all good with it, mate. Thank you for asking.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to segue back towards, well, I guess we haven't moved away from fishing really, but I know you touched on salmon and sea trout, and I just wanted to, you said those trips up to about 12 or so. How did you find it? Did you catch any? And again, judging by your social media, it's something that's not on the radar in the same way. Would that be fair to say?
That's very true. The short answer for did I catch a salmon? No. But I remember, and this is a one for the memory bank. We drove up on the Saturday. Myself, my dad. My dad drove. My mum. We dropped my mum off at the caravan site, and we went to look at the river. Now I know I'm sure it was the North Esk, and it's a spate river, and it had rained the Thursday, Friday. We got there on the Saturday. I've never seen so many salmon and sea trout. We weren't fishing on the Saturday though. We just went to have a look. There were that many salmon, sea trout. They were everywhere. We were thinking, oh my God, we've got to wait till Monday because you can't fish on a Sunday. Monday came round, there was bugger all left. There was nothing at all in there. It was like the river had just emptied. So yeah, my dad's caught a couple from there, both on the same day. But no, I've not been lucky enough to get one. I'd love to. I went up to the Ure this September, October, before we had the proper rains, and I didn't. I think we saw a couple, but didn't have any. So I went back onto the Grayling. Then myself and my father, we went and fished the North Tyne. And he had a 10-pound 3 sea trout.
Wow.
It was huge. It was absolutely massive. And I believe, speaking to the gilly that we had, Adam, it was the biggest of the season at 10-pound 3. It was a monster. Again, loads of salmon there jumping, but just couldn't connect with anything. But that is salmon fishing. I'll get
That's
one.
Even
I'll
hard.
get one day.
Yeah. I was going to say that's even harder than a 3-pound Grayling right now.
Yeah.
Salmon. So interestingly, when I was sort of doing the research and we were chatting a little bit, you mentioned to me that there's a period that you sort of stepped away from rivers to concentrate on still waters. Was there any reason for that? Was that location based? Was that where you were living at the time? Was it you sort of wanted a break from rivers for a bit? What was the reason for that?
I don't think there was a main reason for it. It was just as you get into your teens, your 20s, life changes, family, jobs, and river just sort of slipped me by. But I wanted to still get that fish itch, that fly fishing itch scratched, and I'm quite lucky where I live here in the Midlands. I've got some fantastic reservoirs. I've got sort of Thornton Reservoir, which is 20 minutes away. I've got Draycote, which is half an hour away, and some of the fish in there is brilliant. IFA runs a really fantastic fishery, and the lads there absolutely brilliant. And you can always go there and just have a chat with the lads. I've spent sort of an hour there just chatting to them before I've got out on the boat. Great guys, well run fishery, and some of the hardest fighting stocks rainbows that I've ever caught. Really, really good fish. So yeah, it wasn't that I forgot about the rivers. It was a change of location, and a change in circumstance. So yeah, that's the real reason. But you can still have great days, whether it be on a still water, on a big reservoir, on a small pond. It's the getting out there that was the main benefit to me.
I know Ifor and Tom well, and they're great guys, and they have a wonderful model of how to run a fishery, or fisheries in their case, or reservoirs in their case. And we've got a similar sort of thing down here. And I've touched on early podcasts with Nick about, and some others, that Wimberpool. And I visited just before Christmas, a week or so. It was one of those freezing cold, the first freezing cold. I'd not reservoirs, a Freudian slip there. I'd not reservoir fished for absolutely years for stock rainbow trout. And my friend Luke Kozak organised it. And there was him, my friend Perry, my friend Toby Merrigan, and Luke had organised a really nice. It comes around. We're circling around to this friendship and everything that goes outside of fishing. Luke made a beautiful stew. We turned up and he had really nice coffee. We all stood near each other and just chatted and caught up, because we hadn't all fished together for a while, and it was really, really good fun. But what I do remember there is the take from the fish. And like you say, I've not, I'm used to river trout and salmon, but dear me, did those things go.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic fun. I think made more so by the company, I have to say. And I know some of the guys will be listening, so thank you for a wonderful day. It really meant a lot to me. But it was really good fun to actually do that. And sometimes, I'm most comfortable in a river, but I really enjoyed stepping out of that for a while. And did you find that and learning sort of, or trying different techniques and fishing different ways, from boats, floating line, sunk line, lures, true imitations, was that an interesting part of it for you as well?
Yeah. Now, if you speak to the guys that I fish with, I'm not a natural guy, as in my fly patterns. I like as much colour and movement as possible. But yeah, going to the still waters. If my friend Adam saw a rise, he'd be on the dries. He would have a permanent dry fly rod set up. That's what sort of ingrained into him. I'd love just to chuck a pink snake over it or something like that and try and get that bow wave coming after it. That I love that big bow wave from a fry feeding rainbow. Whether it be a pink snake, I might be a bit over the top there, but maybe a black one or something like that. But yeah, it was like my river fishing was when I was young. So I suppose going to still waters, it wasn't that I wanted a change. It was just what happened in my fishing journey. When my dad moved up here, we not forgot, but we didn't renew the memberships down up in Derbyshire. So I think it was just a change in circumstance that got me onto the still waters, and it's good fun. And I like your Lechlades, I like your Diva, I like all that type. Whether it be a stocked £20 fish, I'm quite happy going and trying to target one of those. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm quite happy just going out Stillwater Reservoir now, and going and spending time with, and especially with my dad now. He enjoys it. We don't get to fish as often together, but we were at Lechlade last week and we both had our limit, which is great. He'll now make some gravlax out of that, and I'll get that stocked in the fridge. We'll get some smoked trout. So yeah, it's just how your journey progresses through life, I suppose, that took me to that avenue of fly fishing.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the pink snake. Toby started off with one of those. I had this in my mind. I was going to fish buzzers, or I think I had a couple of dialbacks on, and just threw out. I could see some midges around, and I thought, right, I'll throw out. There wasn't enough to bring my line round, so I was moving it nice and I watched Toby go out, throw this thing out to the horizon, rip it back. Yep, that's one, and then another one, and it was very, very funny to do that. And generally, for me, that's what I like to move a fly for, whatever reason it is. I did a podcast here on Colifer, which is brown trout, so I'd say so. But again, there I'll pull a black leech or something like that. because I like the take as well, and getting whacked by those fish that way. So it's really good fun. So I don't know if it's certainly lit something in my mind again about perhaps visiting these places. You talk about the bycatch or the byproduct, sorry, and the gravilax. I'm the same, and I've got a cold smoker that my friends many years ago bought for my God. I think it was my 30th. I think it was my 30th actually, and it's sitting doing nothing. And I'm thinking, actually, I used to really enjoy smoking trout, eating it, and of course it's much more better for you because you know where it's come from than smoked salmon from a fish cage and everything else. So there's a great argument for it, and I'm becoming curious about that again as well. So we'll have to watch this space and see what happens when rivers open up again. It's easy for me just to head down to the river. Like you, I'm pretty close to it, so it's kind of nice to be able to do that. But I'm wondering if more from the social aspects actually, that I really enjoyed that day for so many different reasons. But before we move on, and you mentioned Lechlade, actually, I love that as a venue. I've not fished there for many, many, many years. I wrote a piece about it was Lechlade. I have been there. Sorry, it's Bushy Lees. Bushy Lees was the one I really, really liked. Lechlade, lovely as well. I did write a piece about that for the online magazine I used to run, Eat, Sleep, Fish, and had a fun day up there. But I was more writing and taking photos, and somebody said throw one out, and annoyingly I hooked a 8 or 9 pound fish, which was slightly embarrassing. But that was good fun. But do you have, if I said to you, right, I'm going to hold your hand behind your back, twist it just very, very gently, which one would you choose as your favourite stillwater venue?
This is tough. My favourite.
I'll give you two.
My favourite two stillwater venues, or are we classing reservoirs in this as well?
I tell you what, you can choose one stillwater and one reservoir. There we go.
Reservoir, I'm going to pick Draycott. Fantastic. One, because of the way it's run. And two, the fish don't bloody pull hard there. Now, my favourite stillwater. I can't believe you put this upon me. Lechlade Diva.
I'll give you that.
I can't pick between the two. Lechlade, the fish fight amazingly hard. When me and my father were there last week, I couldn't. He actually said, "This is the first time my arm has ached landing a fish in a long time." But then if you go to Diva, it's just Diva's Diva. It's the crystal clear water. It's the sight fishing of the big brown trout that's under the willow tree. Yeah, I couldn't honestly pick between those two for different reasons.
Yep, good choice. Absolutely fine by me. I wanted to drill down your timeline a little bit and ask you, how about going overseas for fishing? Have you done much of that? Have you done saltwater? Have you done trouting in other countries? What else have you done?
I've not done trouting in other countries. I've been quite lucky in the fact that my parents, for the last 15 years, have had a house and a sport fishing boat out on the Gulf of Mexico in Florida.
Oh, wow.
So I have done for the past 15 years quite a bit of tarpon fishing, barracuda, shark, redfish, snook on the fly rod, which is, when you get one of those tarpon on a fly rod, it's an incredible feeling. But I'm actually going out in April, just coming up, and it is the start of the tarpon season there. So I've got to get myself into tarpon striking and not hooking trout again. So it's two totally different strikes, but two totally different fish.
Yeah. This is another tip I'm giving away for free again today. I've done the indicator one for free, and this one, whenever I'm bone fishing or saltwater fishing, when I've made the cast and it's a good one, the mantra in my head the whole time is don't strike, don't strike. As I'm retrieving, in time with the retrieve, I'm saying don't strike, don't strike, don't strike. And that sort of has saved me on numerous occasions not to set up on a bonefish, tarpon, or whatever it may be. Interesting, some of those species that you mentioned there. I bloody love snook, and I think it's the real overlooked of the saltwater species. They're really kind of a cool fish, actually, aren't they? Do you share my love for them?
Amazing. We actually, the first boat my father owned, we actually called it Snook On, because that's how much we love those fish. And I don't know if you know, I think this might be a fact that you might know, might not know. Snook are an endangered, or were an endangered species now. There's multiple seasons for them out in the States. Seasons change from coast to coast to county to county. But I think it was in the war that snook was sold in cans as rationed. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, snook came in cans as a ration. Whether that's why they're endangered now, I don't know. But what a fish. That mouth, that big black lateral line along the side of it. What a fish.
Yeah.
And my favourite time for fishing for them is night time under the lights. So you'll fish the bridges or the docks. A lot of the docks out in Florida, they'll have a spotlight in the water. And all the little fish congregate in there. And then you could just watch these snook and the tarpon and the snapper just come and smash into them. And what a sight when it's pitch black all around you, but you've got that one dock light that's like just mecca of the fish. And you can just cast your fly in there, rip it back out, and just watch that, whatever it may be, hopefully a 38-inch snook smash your fly. Yeah. But yeah, you clouse a minnow. But yeah, amazing fish.
Yeah, nice. The other one you mentioned, which I have no experience of, but perhaps one day, is redfish. And I think it was similar there, that they were almost wiped out, weren't they? That, again, they were used as a food source or were eaten widely and were almost wiped out as well, weren't they?
Yeah, and they do taste lovely. I can concur. but they grow to big sizes. They're not massive down where we are, but if you go further up towards the Panhandle, they get bull redfish, and they are big fish. The ones we get tend to be, a good fish will be 10, 15 pound. Generally, you're in the 3, 4, 5 pound range. But yeah, you've got a sort of a crab imitation fly, and you just kind of leave it on the bottom, and the redfish will come pick it up, and that's when you hit them. But great fish, great fish, especially with that one spot on the back. You can get one big black dot on its back tail. Stunning looking fish.
Yeah, and they sort of tail as well, don't they? In that, I guess that is to pick up those crab patterns and everything else.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So you'll fish the grass flats, which unfortunately are becoming less and less now out in the States. But yeah, you can see tailing redfish, and all of a sudden you'll be looking across the flat, and there'll be 50 redfish coming towards you, and all hell can break loose. But it also, other times they'll just totally ignore you. They'll just swim by like you're not even there. But that's fishing. It's just frustrating.
Yeah. No, that's one. I know my friend Nick went for his 40th, I think, and they caught some big ones. I think it was the Panhandle. So the top left side of Florida, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. One day. So many fish, so little time. Where is your dream destination? Do you have somewhere that you would love to go? Let's give you two. Again, I'm being so generous today. I cannot believe this. Yeah, I'll give you a saltwater one, and I'll give you a freshwater one.
Right, let's go freshwater first. I have always wanted to go to Alaska. Always. Me and my dad said, when you get to college, or when you do college or get to uni, I'll take you to... I never got to college or uni, so I've never been to Alaska. But yeah, that's one thing I'd love to go and do. I just find the country, just looking at pictures, stunningly beautiful. And the amazing different types of salmon that they get running in their rivers. So yeah, that would be my freshwater destination. My saltwater destination, I suppose I've been spoilt in a way, with the fishing that I've had in the States. But I think it would have to be somewhere like Cuba, somewhere like that. I've never been. I've only watched TV programs on there. But yeah, tarpon is my all-time favourite saltwater fish. I've got a tattoo of my arm of one. It is the Silver King. That initial strike. So yeah, it'd be somewhere where the tarpon are there. They've got to be there. I mean, Cuba's got your tarpon, it's got your snook, it's got your barracuda, it's got your bonefish, it's got your permit, it's got all those main fly, or what species you can catch on fly. So I'm going to say there, yeah, Cuba.
Yeah, good choices. I wish I could offer you some advice on those. I've not been to either of them, but I've done a number of podcasts with people. Phil Barker recently has been going for 25 years to Alaska, and Pete Cockwell as well, obviously with the huge grayling I've had as a guest on here, has talked about it. And I think for me, the salmon is kind of interesting, but I think I think on that podcast, I was trying to find out a little bit more about the grayling and the rainbow or leopard trout of Alaska.
Yeah.
Are they of interest to you as well as the salmon, or would it be mainly the salmon that you'd want to tick off the list?
I think because, and again, it's the salmon. It's what myself and my father have always said. We will go salmon fishing. Obviously, it'd be great to catch one of those grayling that Pete has caught in the past. There, I mean, wow, what fish they were! But yeah, I think it's just got to be those salmon, the king salmon. Yeah, it's what we've always said we wanted to do. So I'm sticking with my guns and saying the salmon, Pete.
Nice. That's fine. And the saltwater choice, again, I don't know, and I don't know Cuba well enough, but I always got the impression that you fish mainly nearly all of the time from the boat. And I love wading a flat and spotting the fish and everything else. So I don't know if that's a reason. I'm probably not well informed enough to know that, but I know obviously we had Matt Hayes on here talking about Cuba and the early days of fishing down there. Matt Harris as well was talking with great love about the fishing there. So that sounds kind of interesting as well. And you say about the tarpon, and again, I think I've said on previous podcasts, I think of the saltwater species, I think that would be the one that I could really get something for, actually. I like it being a salmon angler, being someone who likes fishing hard, that, you know, any fish that you count jumps, takes, or whatever, touching the lead, or whatever it may be, that is deeply exciting and interesting to me. So I'm in agreement with you. What is it that really does it for you about the tarpon then?
With the tarpon, it's that first take and run. Now, it's a lot of the times with fly, it's going to be sight fishing, or you know where they're going to be. You've watched them roll, you've watched them porpoise sort of 100 yards down the beach, so you know they're going to be in this vicinity, so you're putting your fly there. And when you get that first take, strip, jump, run 200 yards, and your hand moves far away from that reel, or else you're going to have no knuckles and a broken little finger. That's what does it for the tarpon. It's that initial strike, jump, run. And then you've got sort of this, 150, 200 pound Goliath of a fish, just a big herring jumping out of the water, shaking its head, its gills are going mad. It's that. And the power of those things up until you could be fighting them for half an hour to an hour, maybe longer. It's that final roll where they take their last sort of gulp of air, that you know you've got them. and you've got to sort of side strain, get them rolled on their side, grab that leader or grab them by the bottom jaw, and you can just sit there for sort of 20 minutes, just in the boat, slow in idle, just getting that oxygen back in. And when you see that 150-pound fish just swim off, it's just incredible. After that monumentous battle that it's just given you, unbelievable fishing.
Cool. Well, that's that's ignited a fire again on that front. I think one of the most spectacular things I've seen in fishing, I know where you talk about the jump and the flaring of the gills and everything else. I've not caught them as big as that. I've hooked them as big as about 70. And like you say, that initial, the way it just rips line off in one go as it zooms out is quite phenomenal. But I think one of the most amazing things I've seen in fishing is tarpon daisy chaining.
Yeah.
And for listeners, I think I've mentioned it before, that for listeners, it's like a pod of tarpon, and the one I saw, I think, was 6 or 7 fish, just swimming round in a perfect circle, not going anywhere, just moving in a perfect circle. And I happened to see it in Venezuela. It was one of the most amazing things I've seen, and one of the most beautiful things as well. And I remember seeing those, and I think I didn't even cast at these fish because it was so beautiful. I didn't want to. They weren't huge fish. Yeah. Have you experienced that? Have you seen daisy chaining tarpon?
Yes. And it's just off a place called Marco Island. You come out the bay, and there's a sand flat to your right, which there's a channel that runs in between a place called Coconut Island and I can't remember the key, what it was called, but there's a sand flat there that runs sort of half a mile off the beach. And you do see them on there. You'll see them coming out of the blue of the sea, sort of 5, 6, 7 of them in a pod, and then all of a sudden, they're just swimming in a circle, and it's like, well, why are they doing it? It's magical to see. And then you pick up your fly, and you've got to try and pick which one's the lead fish, because you're supposed to put your fly on the lead fish, but when they're in a circle, how do you know? So it's madness. Yeah, you pick the wrong fish and you've spooked them, they're gone. But magical to see. You've got these big silver herring just sort of in a circle. Magic.
Yeah. I remember where the seeds were sown. I'd fish for them a little bit beforehand as well, but the DVD, as it was at the time, Chasing Silver, and where they took, and there's subsequently been others, I think, but the likes of Andy Mill and all the other guys catching tarpon in Florida and secret locations and stuff like that. And they really are a pretty spectacular fish. So I think that is a very, very good choice. So it's that time of year where we're thinking, right, what do I need for the new season? Do you have have you got your eyes on anything at the moment? And also another 2-pointed question: what's your rod? What is your Hall of Fame rod? Which is the one that comes out with you very often or means a lot to you?
I've not really got a Hall of Fame rod. I'm not. So I've obviously got my river rods. I've got a short river rod. So I've got 2. Hold on, let me work this out now. I've got a 10-foot 3-weight, another 10-foot 3-weight, one for dry fly, one for euro nymphing. I then got a specific euro nymphing rod, 10-foot for a 3-weight. I've obviously then got my 10-foot 7-weight for reservoirs. I've got an 8-foot 6 5-weight for your little perch down the river kind of thing. I got a 9-foot 9-weight for pike, and then I've got the different rods out in the States. But what have I got my eye on? I've just bought a backpack, one of those aqua backpacks, and a Stanley thermos flask, so I can go for the day now and be quite happy. But no, I've not really got anything that I've got my eye on. I am after a dry fly reel, something quite nice. But I can't say that I've got my eye specifically. I just buy things if I like it and it's shiny. Then if I've got the money, I'll just buy it. I won't need it. I say I need a new reel. I've got 2 sat up here in boxes that aren't even used because I've got others in the car. So I can't say that I definitely need anything. But if there's a sale on and it flashes up on my laptop, then who says I won't buy something? How about you?
Yeah,
You got anything you need?
No, I don't. I bought. It was on one of the podcasts actually. I ordered a rod from my good friend Luke Bannister, 7'9" full weight bamboo rod, which turned up. I think it was end of November, early December. It turned up, which I've not used yet. And the idea of that, it's a 3-piece rod, so that I can travel with it. But I'm kind of buying less and less and using what I've got, and I'm going to use that one today. And so I've refined it to very few rods, and there's not much I really need, to be perfectly honest. So I just enjoy what I've got. As I said, I may get a reel to go with that. I'm going through the process. I've got 2 lines I like on that rod, and I need to fish it to see how they fish. Because although I love casting them as well, I like to see how it will fish as a duo or a dry fly rod, or as just throwing a nymph under an indicator. So I like to explore those things, and two lines are really good at the moment for that setup, but I haven't decided which one. If it is one that isn't what I've got on a reel that would work with that rod, then I may get another reel and put that line on there. I might treat myself to that, but I do not know at this stage, but we'll see. But that's about it. There's nothing else I really need at this stage, which at this time of year is quite unusual for me. You know, my waders, everything else seem to be in pretty good shape. So, yeah, I mean, pretty good with that at the moment. So we'll see. But coming into the season, what are your plans? Obviously, this elusive, or so far elusive, £3 Grayling. What is the plan for 2022 for you?
So I've been speaking with some of the guys. We've got there's 4 of us that kind of go fishing now. There's myself, Adam, Paul, and Damien from Living the Dream Fishing. So he's floating nets, and we went to the D last year. We were messaging last night. Okay, so when are we next going out? We're looking at going just little weekend trips, things like that. We want to do a lot more of those this year, which are just great fun. So we'll get an Airbnb, whether it be Wales, Scotland, England, whatever. Airbnb, just take a few beers, couple of days fishing, go up on the Friday night, come back on the Sunday evening, which is great fun. I am going to be after barbel on the fly again, which I found that Derwent has got a few, and I managed to get 3 last season out of the stretch. So yeah, I'll be doing that. Trout, we're going to obviously target them as much as possible on the dry. I'm looking forward to mayfly again this year. That was always great fun, and I'll be happy just sitting there for sort of an hour waiting for the right fish to come up, and then just target that one fish on the mayfly. That's what's special about that sort of time of year. So yeah, just going out, friends, going out by myself, just enjoying it again. Hopefully we've got a good summer of weather to come, and looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. Another season on the rivers.
Brilliant. How was your mayfly last year?
It was my first mayfly season up in Derbyshire. It was unbelievable. I found it really good. I've got a couple of pictures of fish. I don't know if you can see that one behind me. That was a mayfly fish. I didn't measure it, but I know my net, I think, is 58 centimetres. And this fish went over both sides of the net. Looking at it, 3.5 pound, I would say. And I sat there for 2 hours. It was a big back eddy fish. And it just kept, and back eddy fish are pain in the backsides anyway, because you just don't know where they're going to come up. So I had to there was a tree to my right-hand side. I was casting over my left-hand shoulder, trying to get it in there. And I just sat there for ages, waiting for this fish to come all the way around, doing its lap back into where it was coming up, targeted it. So yeah, mayfly was good fun. And some of the hatches we got in the evenings and spinnerfalls, we were fishing until 11 o'clock at night, just listening for that rise, for that big splash when either a brownie or a rainbow comes along. So yeah, looking forward to that. Really looking forward to it.
Nice, fantastic. Well, we've been chatting over an hour now, and it's been brilliant. If people want to find about your exploits and see whether you do crack the Grayling before the end of the season or the Trout, how can people find you on social media? What are your handles?
So I am on Instagram, and it is Flay. I think it's Flay Fly Fishes. I think it's something like that. So yeah, I have got a YouTube channel. I can put a couple on there. I want to try and get into that a bit more this year. Just whether it be short vids or sort of 15-minute long. So looking forward to doing a bit of that. I've got the GoPro, and it's just been sat there. But yeah, most of the fish that I'll be catching will be going onto my Instagram. So yeah, please feel free. If you want to have a look at some fish that we catch, then yeah, reach out. If I can help in any way, if there's anything that's we've come across today, if we spoke about and I can help, please reach out, and I'll do my best to have a chat. If it's about mental health, then just give me a shout, reach out, and if you need to talk about anything, then I'm all ears, and I'll listen to you.
Absolutely brilliant, Chris. Thank you. It's been wonderful to hear about your fishing career, the way that you have talked about the mental health issue as well, so openly and candidly, and your offer of help there, I think, is wonderful, and just to me encapsulates what a wonderful community this can be as well. So it's been brilliant. I know you said through this you were a little bit nervous. It was easy, wasn't it, bud?
I'm still nervous. My eyes are still going. I keep having a little sip of my drink, so I've not got dry mouth. But yeah, it's been great fun, and thank you ever so much for you asking me to join you on this. It's been an absolute brilliant hour and 6 minutes.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris, so much. Everyone, this has been the Fly Culture Podcast. We covered lots of ground today. We've gone to lots of places that I hope you find interesting. And as Chris has said, perhaps sometimes talking to somebody, be it a friend, be it somebody who's been through something similar, may help you. So thank you so much for listening. As ever, there will be plenty more Fly Culture podcasts very, very soon.
The Fly Culture podcast is brought to you in association with Fly Culture, a quarterly print magazine. For more information, please visit flyculturemag.com. You can also find Fly Culture on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.